All right, welcome back to the Warrior Servant Leader podcast. We're glad you're here. And man, do we have an incredible guest today, Jay Setchell. This guy has experienced multiple death or near death experiences. He's had 73 surgeries, mostly paralyzed, has paralysis, uh, and he has faith, hope, and prayer. And everyone carries strengths inside them, and often without even knowing that they're there. And Jay will tell you he's often asked himself, where does my inner strength come from? And he'll tell you the truth is, it's not from just one place. What he has learned is simple but powerful. He can't expect the future to be handed to him by someone else. It's his responsibility. And I love this. There are 10 little words, 10 little two-letter words that he's carried with him for years that have kept him motivated whenever he felt the temptation to give in. And these are the 10 two little words. If it is to be, it's up to me. And then his motto, and actually his upcoming the book, the ebook's already out there. The paperback is coming out, I think, around December 20th, give or take. And this is one thing, one truth that's carried him through everything he's faced. It's always too soon to quit. Jay, we're so happy to have you here today and for you to share your story of overcoming and enduring and perseverance and grit, all those things that a warrior servant leader needs to have to keep on that journey. So, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here, and I look forward to your. I just look forward to this because it covers a lot of good subjects that are very important that should be taken to heart.
Absolutely, and one of the things that I want to congratulate you on or thank you for, and I know you hear this from people all the time, but it's very heartfelt from my perspective. Thank you for your service. You're a Marine, and one of those near-death experiences, I think, occurred while you were in the Corps.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
so tell us. I mean, I know you've had a couple of the car accidents, drowning, just I mean, some fascinating stuff and trials and challenges you've been put through. Why don't you give us a little timeline of what this journey's looked like for you?
Well, been many years
Yeah,
to have a
yeah,
timeline.
yeah.
The older we get, we got more to tell. But no, I mean, to give a kind of a, I guess a quick overview is that, I was born and raised on a good sized working farm in northern Illinois. Learned a lot of responsibility very early because we had to do it all. And if your just responsibility was pushed down my throat, and all for the better, because a lot of that is where I learned, if it is to be, it is up to me. It really is. It started very early, but I got that. Worked did that, worked nights all through high school, uh, plus went to high school, etc. Went in the Marine Corps, did the Marine Corps thing. Uh, my first time I died was November 12th, 1969, 56 years ago. This last November 12th, taking another Marine back to. Well, I went to visit a guy who was severely injured. He was worked with me in CID, criminal intelligence, and some people found out where he would lived and undercover and beat him. He was bad. He was bad. And but anyhow, long story short, we taking him back to base. There were several cars on the road, and we hit a semi that was pulled across the road. Uh, One headlight was out. None of the side lights marked. None of the markers worked. They were all covered with dirt. We hit him in the driver. It was a '66 Ford Galaxy 500 XL that went from 17 and a half feet to 9 feet in length. Crushed and blew up and burned. And his wife was with us. She was holding a compress on his head. And She was in a coma 18 months and passed away. Uh, Roy got burned real bad. He didn't wasn't broke up like I was as bad. You know how when you hit, you've been in law enforcement, and when
Yeah.
you your face, they had to dig my head out of the steering wheel, and 32 facial fractures and third degree burns and all that stuff. But it just it, it's not it's just a bad thing. Anyhow, did they finally got me back later, and through a tracheotomy. That my what happened was I had punctured lungs in three spots, and I had drowned in my own blood in my lungs. And when they cut my tracheotomy, finally, I just blew out, exploded blood like a whale surfacing. And
Wow.
I don't remember going back in my body, and I very barely remember coming out of my coma before they put me back in an induced coma for a couple more weeks so they could continue to work on me because I had so much wrong with me. But that was number one. Then I got out of spent a year in the Naval Hospital. 9 months I spent in traction. So that's a long time before you get out of bed. It's like it
Wow.
was really bad on my back, my neck, and all that. But you got to do what you got to do. Um, and keep moving forward. But I got out of the hospital. I spent about 4 or 5 months kind of recouping and regaining whatever. And I had I started getting some little jobs. I had 12 jobs, I think it was, in about 9 weeks because I couldn't stand and I couldn't sit because of my back and because of my legs and leg brace. I had leg braces all the way up my legs and such. But at any rate, I started my own little business. I said, nah, heck with it. And so I identified a couple areas and I had three businesses going, and two of them did very, very well. One was okay. It was financially feasible, but then I had a drunk hit me almost head on an evening in early September '73, and he did not have his seatbelt on. Got thrown out of his pickup truck and run over by his own truck and killed. And I had my seatbelt on in a almost brand new Monte Carlo and rolled several times and down in a ditch and way out in the middle of the cornfields between two small towns. So it was about a half hour till they got me out, but it tore the left side of the car pretty well off. Engine was gone. My left side was pretty well damaged. Again, crushed up under the steering wheel and all that. And had a wild out of body experience going up to heaven and hearing what I believed were angels. I heard voices. It was peaceful. It was calm. I didn't feel in neither of these did I feel any pain. The first one I don't remember the accident whatsoever. None. Not even
Hmm.
a little bit. We had cars behind us that were witnesses that said, had we not hit the truck, they would have hit the truck. It was so dark. It was just, I had skid marks like 50 feet, but that didn't affect the impact enough. But I had bled out in that second accident, and I, I could see from above them giving me blood from another person because they didn't have blood in this. We didn't really have ambulances back then. I mean, your ambulance in most cases in a small farm town was the mortuary. The came
Yeah.
from the funeral parlor, and that's not that that's what I had, but that's was very common. And they didn't have the jaws of life. This was back before all that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had to drive down the road and find somebody. But got out of that, got through that. The kind of a funny thing about that whole thing, if there is something funny, I find a little humor in was about a week and a half after it happened. I was in the hospital, and my mother had come in because now she didn't have to come to California to see me from Illinois. She was there, and
Hmm.
she came in with a rolled up newspaper and was whapping me on the right side. She said, "Quit doing this to us. Quit doing this to us." It's
Yeah.
like, and you don't think about it, but as I realized later, I mean, 3 years before that, I just got out of the hospital from dying that time, and so you lose your son here, you lose him again here. It's like not good.
Right.
But got out of that. Went forward with the businesses. They continued to grow. Had gotten married. Uh, that next year, uh, moved. Uh, Kept the businesses going while I was doing some other business for a company in a different town. Uh, because I kind of look at life in having jobs or not jobs, having companies or having businesses if you can do it. And I
Mm.
think I'm ADHD. I guess I am. I don't know. I'm I'm big at multitasking. I like that. It's just I like doing. I like always being busy because one thing that I've believed and I've learned out of all this, I'm going to throw it out right now, is that I don't. It's hard for me to understand why people, as a rule, don't have more appreciation for their time on earth and the life that they have and what they can offer other people. And those that have been dead and come back, or those that have had a very, very near death experience, I believe, as the bigger part, anyhow, probably don't think about it maybe like that, but they realize it more because they've had everything taken.
Hmm.
They're gone. And when you come to that realization, I think that changes your life. I think it does. Um, but I worked for I started another couple of companies. And I was going to say, I kind of look at it like a trident, like America's protected by land, sea, and air. So I figure, if you got two or three businesses, you got one doing real good, one medium, and one not so good. It all works out. But if you're lucky, you got three that are going good. Um, but moved on. I'd gotten a job, and I had two of the businesses still going, but I got employed by GTE back in the old days when we were the largest independent phone company in the country, and we were the largest Yellow Page publisher in the world. But I got a job with the Yellow Pages, and we happened to have in my hometown GTE phone company and the Yellow Pages, and you can probably remember if you didn't if the phone book wasn't in the right spot, your dad or your mom would pick you up by the back of your scruff of
Yeah.
your neck and say, "Where's the phone book, Pat?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
You know, it had things written in it and on it and all over and dog-eared and whatnot. But I started with them February 1st, 1981, and on the 4th of July. Um, I broke my neck. I jumped in a swimming pool feet first, about 3.5 feet of water, landed on my feet, probably too stiff legged. I had contacts in, probably threw my neck back. I don't know. I barely remember doing it. We'd been playing volleyball that day, like I say, 4th of July,
Yeah.
hot, been invited to the swimming pool, and a couple guys were going to throw me in and just for fun. And I said, no, not till I get my boots off and my billfold out. And I jumped in. And after that, I just couldn't come back to the surface. And I went through that, went through the drowning. I have people ask me, what is it like to drown? Well, I can't say it was terrifying, but I know that I finally opened my eyes. I could see people swimming over me and people jumping in. And, I'm thinking, why am I not getting back to the surface? I can't move, but I don't remember any pain then either. Um, but when it's time, the only thing that you do automatically is you breathe and your heart beats. That's the two things
Mm.
that God gives you that you don't have to think about. It just
Yeah.
works. And that's
Yeah.
what keeps you alive. And I know because people can't hold their breath till they pass out. It just doesn't work that way. But when you're going to drown, and if you've ever been in a swimming pool and somebody's talking to your ear when you're younger and they're trying to go, "Hey Pat, let's whatever,"
Yeah.
it sounds like it's kind of a garbled. You can't understand it,
Yeah.
and that's what it sounded like when I drowned. And but it went quick, very quick. As soon as I started to, I sucked in the water. I completely everything went black and everything went quiet and silent. I don't remember anything except, I mean, people ask, always about the pipe or the light and all that. And I don't remember any of that except going down like a vortex, like the inside of a tornado, going quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker and faster and faster. And I was spinning or moving down this vortex, I call it. That's the only thing
Yeah.
I can think of. But next thing I knew, um, I was being told I'd already been taken out, gotten back. Um, and a gentleman was telling me, a doctor was telling me I'd broken my neck and I'd probably be paralyzed from the shoulders down the rest of my life. And uh, the pain was at that point was really bad because the spinal cord, all the spinal damage was it was really bad. But uh, the saving grace I think I had there out of all that was I was married 3 weeks the day that it happened. No honeymoon, anything. It was my second marriage, but uh, I was in a circle bed with these bolts in my skull from a Gardner and Wells Tongs, and I was face down. And my wife got in front of me down below, and there was a gentleman with her, and she said, "This man's son." She told me his name, and his son was in a car accident. He's 12 years old. He's not bodily damaged except he hit his head, and he's in a coma. And he's here, and I met him in the waiting room and stuff. So, but he would like to say a prayer for you. So, if that's okay, blink your eyes. So that's all I could do. I mean, I was like in this book, I've even asked her how long was that? Was that 3 days later, 5 days later? She said I can't remember, Jay, and I know it was a few days, but I can't
Mm-hmm.
tell you how long. And but he's, and a gentleman got in front of me. His name was Tom Cooper, and he asked for a prayer, and he asked in prayer that I be healed and my family be watched for, and that I'm able to walk and I'm able to move and to follow what my goals, expectations that the Lord has put in my heart. And I remember that much about it. His son came out of the coma a couple of days later, and he was gone, but he came and saw me quite often. And I wonder because of all that I was allowed to do through my perseverance and my attitude and my goals and whatnot, because I did walk, and I'll say that we'll talk about that here later. But had I rejected that prayer or not accepted that prayer, I've wondered would that have been like rejecting God?
Mm-hmm.
Would I, if I had not accepted that prayer, would or could I have ever gotten through what I did by, well, just by the grace of God?
Yeah.
So when
No,
I say by the grace of God, here I'm here, it's truly by the grace of God.
yeah. It, I don't know if you've ever heard this definition before. What, or at least this is my definition of what is. People will say, "Oh, but but for the grace of God, and then fill in the blank." And I always wondered, what is grace? And this is what I learned. It's God's rewards at Christ's expense. GRACE, God's
That'd be a good,
rewards at Christ's expense, and it's something that we don't deserve. We can't demand it, but God freely gives it. So, man, what an incredible story, and it reminds me everything you're sharing, and that courage, that grit, that perseverance, accepting that grace of God, having that faith. That's the ultimate definition of a warrior. That is a person who stands up, shows up, and defends what they believe. And and I know uh, your book, The Strength Within You, It's Always Too Soon to Quit. There's probably a lot more detail about your journey uh, and stuff, but I'd like to go a little bit deeper than that because you and you're a few years older than me, not a whole lot.
thanks,
uh,
thanks.
yeah. So
Hey, but at least I made it.
Yeah, and same here. You know, I didn't have the near death experience, but when I was in second grade, I got nobody. They never did figure out if I slipped and fell, if I got accidentally bumped, or what happened. But I was on the top of monkey bars, and
Monkey bars.
yeah,
I
and
haven't heard that in a long time.
our playground was on asphalt, a parking lot. It wasn't on, grass and ground kind of stuff. And I hit eight steel bars on the way down with my head and landed on my head. And I was in the coma. I don't know how many days, and they didn't know if I was going to come out of it. And I'm sure, all the prayers that were going on, and eventually I did. But I have, like you with your first car accident, I have absolutely zero memory of what happened,
Right.
and even struggled, here in my late 60s, with I don't have long term memory. I don't know if you have had that issue where you can't visualize and remember a lot of things, but that was one of the big side effects that I ended up with, along with tinnitus and some other stuff. But it was, that grace of God, and we you and I, we kind of talked about this a little bit before we jumped on the recording. Is we don't realize a lot of these things until much later in our lives, and we look
Yes.
back and we go,
Right.
man, there was the hand of God right there. So what are some of the other? Because I know you said you've had 73 surgeries. What are some of the other obstacles and that you've overcome? I don't know if I ever told you this, but when I first started this, before it was a podcast, I just called it Taco Tuesday. It was on LinkedIn,
Oh,
and
I
I,
saw you. I saw that in your
yeah,
explanation.
and take action, crush obstacles. So, yeah, and man, 73 surgeries. The obstacles that has put in your way. What are some things that you like on a daily basis? I mean, how do you live out that courage, that grit, and perseverance? And what are some of the daily things you do, or how do you do it?
My best answer really, I don't know. I just do it, and but and that's the truth. Back in when I had the broken neck and all through the time I was in rehab, I got back out. I went back to work with the Yellow Pages. Did very well, but they retired me when I was 41 because I had so many surgeries, and uh, uh, I was getting disabled enough that I was becoming a risk,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't need me to fall down and die someplace or cause a lawsuit or something. And they didn't look at it like that. And I was up in the company far enough and did I was doing very, very, very well, but I understood that, and then I started other businesses after that and took them up a lot further because. Uh, I guess just because the attitude that pushed me through that, Pat, a lot of it is just like, when I go to bed at night, the first thing I do is thank God that I got me through another day. I First thing I do,
Mm-hmm.
I just mentally quiet in my head. I thank God every day because I thank Him every day for that day and what I've been through, and I, I've just got a lot of belief that He's got a future plan for me. So, during the night or when I go to sleep, what am I doing the next day? Or I already kind of know what I'm going to do. But when I get up in the morning, first thing I do is like, oh, I hurt so bad, and I try to get my legs swung over to the side of the bed, and I got a bar on the side of my bed that helps pull me up.
Mm-hmm.
My left arm works pretty good. My wrist is fused and pinned and rotted, and then the bones have been replaced, and my shoulder, multiple surgeries, and all my knuckles have been broken and fingers and stuff, but that doesn't bother me. I mean, it works pretty good. But getting out and getting onto my scooter's a pain, but it's like every step of the way, it's like, God help me, please. Oh, thank you, God, thank you. It's like, it's this blessing because to get out of bed is a chore. And
Yeah.
to answer your question, how do you do each day? I mean, you got to think, okay, I got to move this leg first, then that leg, then this, and it becomes muscle memory. It's kind of like back in the military, or when you break your weapon down or lock and load and go, it's just muscle memory. That's the
Right.
easiest I can say. Um, but I have to, and when I say multitask, everything I do, it's like right now, if you were sitting in my chair, my wheelchair, but let's say it's a chair, and you want to get up and leave, you can just get up and leave. Okay, I got to think, okay, I'm plugged in. I got to take this off. And I only got one hand that works, so it's kind of difficult. Then I turn my wheelchair. I got to raise it up a little. I got to back up a little more. I'll get caught under my desk. I'll back up. Okay, I've got a little dog sleeping down here under me to the left. She likes that area. So I want to make sure I'm not going to run over her. Back up, get around, make sure the doors are open. I only got one hand that works. Push that. Or if I get out to the kitchen, and I like to wash the dishes. I don't mind doing it because I only got one hand that works, but I can kind of hold a wash rag or a sponge in this hand, and it gives me a sense of accomplishment. Even washing dishes, something simple, something basic, and I don't mind it. It's a task. That's all.
Yeah.
And I believe that you've got to have that gets back to the strength within you. Where does it come from? Where does it come from? Your upbringing? Does it come from your genes, your DNA, from your grandparents and their parents and their parents? And it's something that's innate in you. I don't know. Does it come from your the way you were raised at church, if you went to church, or
Mm.
Sunday school, or teachers that you had? Um, it, it, I find that some of it comes from just as I've gotten older. Well, it was the responsibility pushed into me was, it's like we had quite a quite a few cattle, and I raised cattle and hogs and all that. And in our slogan really was, the family was, unless they've eaten, you don't get to eat. So you got to make sure that they work, or
Yeah.
chow's going to be late, right? So you know, but it's always move ahead, and if you've got that locked into your skull, and the new word, it used to be attitude, because attitude is everything. That was the
Yeah.
big thing. Mindset kind of has taken over the last 15, 20 years. It's the mindset, but then some people don't like to say mindset because it's two words, mind and set. And they say, well, you're set in your mind that you're going to do it or not do it. No, 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 no. I disagree with that. And if I may, I'll give you a good example.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what happened was, many years, oh gosh, about 40 years ago, I was on the east coast of the United States. I was out near Sea Island, Georgia, and it was on the ocean. I mean, the sand beaches went for miles, and the wind was blowing like heck. And they had some little wind boats that you get in with the wheels on them and the
Yeah.
sail, and you go down the beach. And so they had one that had for two people, and because I was kind of paralyzed, not as bad as I am now, but I needed help with it. So anyhow, the guy takes me, and we're cruising down the beach, and we're doing like, let's just say 50 miles an hour. Might have been 40, might have been 60, but we were honking,
Yeah.
and we're going southbound. We're going a couple minutes, 3, 4 minutes, and excuse me. On the coming northbound was another one of those little boats, and it's going the opposite direction. And I'm like, and we pass each other, say at 100 miles an hour combined speed, 30, 40 feet apart. It's like, I'm glad we didn't hit head on. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And uh, but I started thinking, how in the world? It's the same boat, same wheels, same sand, same wind, same sail, everything. But we're going south and he's going north. Well, as we're going north, I'm thinking and thinking and thinking. I thought, ah, I know what it is. It's a set of your sail. It's the set of the sail. So it's the same with mindset. If you mind your mindset, I didn't look at it as that term it that way at the time, but I have with the word mindset being out, it's your attitude. You just change your attitude, change the way you're thinking about things, and you can change your life.
Yeah.
And and you don't have to change it a long way. It's like shooting a weapon. If you shoot a rifle, you don't have to move it, but just a little bit. And at 100 yards or 300 yards, or if you're shooting with open sights at, iron sights at 500 meters, it's really not any problem or not a big deal. But if you're off just a thousandth of an inch, you're going to miss your target by a foot and a half or 2 feet. So mindset's a big thing, and your way of looking at things. And if you I think if you get older, you look back at what you've accomplished. If you look at what you've accomplished and been through, and I think that gives you more of a mindset that you can do more. And
Hmm.
I heard a lady the other day talk about kids that need to get up and ride a bicycle. I mean, I know some kids, they're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. They've never ridden a bike because mom and dad don't want them to fall off and get hurt. And her comment was, she says, "I'm a woman. I don't care. Get out,
Yeah.
fall down." Today it's all, we didn't have it when we were younger, but they got helmets, they got pads, they got elbow pads and knee pads and all this
Yeah.
safety equipment. The worst you're going to do is fall over and get scratched. That's the worst that's going to happen. Or you're going to go, "Oh, boo-hoo." We'll get back up and do it again.
Yeah.
And how many billions of people have learned to ride with not training wheels? I never had training wheels, and my mom had this big Schwinn bike with these big tires, and we rode it on gravel, and you fell over and you got gravel in your knees and your elbows, and you got back up and did it again,
Yeah.
and
Shake it off.
you shake it off and move ahead.
Yeah.
That's and that's really it. That's where she was coming from. That
Right.
we're raising too many people that are not willing to have any kind of a warrior spirit, man or woman, and that can be looked at from either angle. To have that, I can do that. Let's get up and go.
Yeah.
I can accomplish that. You take away, say, "Oh, honey, no, you be careful." "No, I don't want," and it's like, well, then you're always dependent. And if you're dependent, you're never going to be a warrior at all, male or female. I don't care. It doesn't matter. And which leads into the rest of what you talk about, in my opinion. Um, One other real brief one, and I haven't told this one in a long time, and it's something I read, oh my gosh, 30, 40, 45 years ago, or maybe longer. I used to kind of be a World War II history buff. I liked it. I don't know
Hmm.
why, just when I was younger. But the story goes about it, and I heard that I read the book written by a man that talked about it, and he was raised in London during the
Oh,
Blitzkrieg, and
yeah.
he was probably 12 or 14 years old, something like that, and his father had a store. And that morning they got up and they went to the store, and the rubble was in the streets, but not too bad in their area. And he put a sign up on the door. It said, "Open for business." Well, not, but a few minutes later, the air raid sirens went off, and the bombers came over, and the Germans were bombing and bombing and bombing, and they were in the subways being safe. And when it was all over, the sirens blew again, and they came out. And when they got to the storefront, he said his father's store was, the front of it was gone. The whole part of, some of the buildings were completely gone. His
Mm.
building was pretty much there. The stock was in the store or whatever it was he was selling, but yet the front of the building was gone. And he said, I watched my father's shoulders as he looked at it. His shoulders started to droop and his head hung down, and he was really down. And he said, and off in the distance, we could hear the crackling of a radio. And I'm trying to remember this the best I can. And a gentleman that you and I know as Winston Churchill got on the radio, and he said, "We're going to fight them in the streets. We're going to fight them in the ocean. We're going to fight them in the air, but we will never, ever give up.
Yeah.
We will win."
When. Yep.
And he said about a minute later, after Churchill got done with that, it maybe even unbeknownst to him who it was at the time, but probably not. Uh, he said my father's shoulders straight
Yeah.
up and his head
Yeah.
picked up, and he got a different attitude. And he went inside, and I heard some rumbling and knocking around and stuff, and I came out, and my father came out and hung a big sign up, a bigger sign up, and said, "More open for business," because the whole front of the store was gone. So what changed? His attitude.
Yeah. Yep.
Is it?
Yeah, I get it. My dad, when I was 16, I had a job, a summer job, right before my senior year of high school, for a concrete company. We poured foundations, and they were all specialty foundations. Nothing was standard. And I was the uh, I was the grunt. I had to load all the forms, all the rebar, all the pins, all that kind of stuff. And so I had to get up like at 5:30 in the morning. And one day my alarm went off, and I just reached it over and I turned it off, and I went back to sleep. And my dad came in and said, "Hey, get up and get going. You gotta get to work." And I said, "Okay, okay." And he left, closed the door, and I rolled over and went back to sleep. And then next thing
Ooh.
I know is it wasn't funny at the time, but in hindsight, he came in and he grabbed my big toe between his thumb and his knuckle of his first finger and just squeezed as hard as he could. And I'm telling you, that was the most pain I'd ever been in. I came shooting up out of that bed, and then he said one thing to me. He goes, "You got to do your job because somebody else is depending on it so they can do their job." And that attitude shift that completely changed that lesson, and then the lesson to be on time is to be late. You always be
Yep.
early. Don't.
Yep.
A meeting starts at 8. You're there at 10 till 8. You don't show up at 8 o'clock. And that whole attitude, and this was I learned this much later as an adult is well, actually, I didn't know the science or the numbers behind it until a couple weeks ago when I had a doctor on the show. He goes, "We have about 50,000 thoughts a day. Because everything begins with a thought."
All right.
And he goes, "We have 50,000 thoughts a day in your waking hours, and about 80% of them are negative thoughts. And it's that 20% that, yes, you can do it, is battling the 80% of all the reasons and excuses that
All
your
right.
mind comes up with why you can't." So I think when you were telling your story, here's literally this is the thought I had. This is what I saw in my head is that so many of us just drift through life like we're on that raft on the lazy river at the water park, that you just go with the current, and we don't live intentionally. And like for you to do the the smallest of things, it requires intention. You okay?
I'm just, yeah, I'm having some spasms and stuff, but that's okay.
All right.
It's okay.
But
It's it,
for
it
you, the littlest task of the day requires great intentionality on your part. So
um,
I see where you're coming from. Is it's just ingrained in you because that's how you live every moment of your life is with intentionality, and that's what we need to do that are able-bodied and haven't had the challenges is to have that mindset of intentionally living life and showing up, standing up, defending what we believe, our families, our faith, our communities, our careers, and then and then I like because we've talked offline for several times. Is your servant mindset of that you put the wants and needs of others before your own, uh, and you want to impact. In fact, you wrote this down once, and I have it. The more people I help, the better person I become. So tell us a little bit about that mindset coupled with the intentionality. How how do you live your life helping other people?
Well, that saying, I mean, I've said it for, oh my gosh, long, long, long time. Uh, and I think I saw it from my parents or my grandparents, because being where I was raised, if your neighbors were sick or one was
Mm-hmm.
injured in a combine accident or something, you always took them a pot of stew, or you took them, you helped bring their crops in. It was always helping and helping and helping and helping. So it wasn't about you all the time. It wasn't about you hardly ever. It was always about the family. It was about the cattle. It was about the crops. It was about your neighbors. It was about the community. It was about my mother taught. She was a teacher for years and years and years. My dad always served on the school board. He was, president of the board several times. So it was always serving. So I think that's where I come up with the more people you help, the better person you become. And I don't mean it in a bad way for that person as a uh, I can't think of the word. I'm not um, that you think you're better than somebody. It just helps you
Right.
become a better person,
Right. It's
and by passing it on, I think you help others, and hopefully, well, not only do you help others, but hopefully you leave the message with them, or they see that they can help others, and they do the same thing. That would be a good thing. Boy, there was something I wanted to make a comment on. You said something earlier about being on time or being late. I want to throw this out. I was raised with the thing, just so much of that was pounded into me when I was a very young person. I never remember my dad not saying, "You always go someplace and leave time to change a flat tire."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you
That's
think about it,
right.
I mean, who knows? And so if you do that, you're going to leave 15 or 20 minutes early, or whatever. And you're better to be there. And then, of course, the military and Marine Corps in particular pounded that into your head. You know, if you're going to go into combat, be there a week early. you
Yeah.
know, have a dug in position, be ready to go. But uh, I I just think a lot of the mindset that you're asking about, it's, you use the word ingrained, and that's something simple. And I'm just going to, it's kind of explicit, but now I won't be explicit with it. But it's like going to the bathroom. Most people, man or women, go into the bathroom and they go to the bathroom. It's just, they do
Yeah.
their thing, how they do it. Okay, I go in, I've got to get my wheelchair set a certain height. I've got to get it backed up a certain way. I got to get this arm up over here. I have to do certain things to get onto the toilet, to do
Yeah.
this, to get back off. The pain getting back off the toilet, back up into my wheelchair is, whew, it sucks the air out of you. Then you got to go back through the thing of getting your shorts back up or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's it's a lot. I mean, I'm not talking 3 minutes. I'm talking, you got 20 minutes just to go do
Yeah.
something simple and quick, and it's a. But everything is like that. Everything, and I I just think that it's you, like I said, you used the word ingrained, and when you said ingrained, it made me think of a chunk of wood where you see all the grain in it. Well, if you never see the grain is all perfect, it's not all equally distant. Some's thinner, some's closer, some's narrower, some's wider.
Yeah.
And I think that's from good years and bad years. As that wood grew, it had a wet year and it grew more. Some years were drier and it didn't grow as much. So it went through the same thing that I'm going through. Sometimes are easier, some things are better. Uh, when the weather changes, and the barometer drops or the temperatures get bad, I'm like a garden hose. A garden hose in the summertime, it's really easy to string out. I'm more supple, if you will. It's just, but in the winter, I'm cold. I mean, and I have naturally, I've got a thing in my neck called syringomyelia. I also got myomalacia. I'm also a brown Sicard. And combined, I'm one of about 40 people in the United States with all three of those. It's just very, very unusual. And syringomyelia quickly is it's like the golf ball in the garden hose. Okay, it plugs my neck. It's right about here, and that's where I had some of my brainstem surgeries, was to help it, but it didn't help it. And the myomalacia is a softening of the cord. So getting back to the garden hose with the golf ball stuck in it, the if you used a hair dryer or a heat gun on the garden hose, it shrinks the garden hose and makes it even tighter. So I technically, for the last 12 years, they have no idea how I'm moving anything. I can move my left arm pretty good. It hurts my shoulder some, but it's just pain. So um, um, I the rest of me just doesn't work because but I've always wondered, and I asked, 10, 11 years ago, how long am I going to be able to move my arm? Because I'm not supposed to be moving anything from my shoulders down because of the I have no spinal fluid flowing. There's nothing going. In the myomalacia, the tightening of the cord is even worse. You can look it up. I mean, it's in my book, and it gives an explanation about it a little bit more, not a lot of detail. Then, and Brown Séquard is a very unusual symptom that comes from a spinal cord trauma. That just because my left side worked better than my right side doesn't mean that it has any feeling. My right side actually has more feeling and sensation than my left side that works. And then the pain moves around your body, or the ability to not feel pain. So when you're in the hospital and they're sticking the needles in your stomach to give you blood thinners or something, I don't feel it. You can stick 1,000 needles. I don't care. Put a nail in me. I don't care. But on my feet, the bottom of my feet are the same way. My bottom foot on my right foot mostly feels no pain. It just doesn't have any pain. It's got nothing. I can walk on glass. I've left blood. And my wife will say, "Where's the blood coming from?" But my left foot, even if I get in the shower and the water's cool, cold, hot, warm, it doesn't matter. It hurts.
Wow.
It just, the pain is bad. So combination of those three is very, very, very. So I deal with that on top of the fact that I
Everything
can't
else.
already do it. Yeah,
Well, a lot of people want to be unique, but that's probably an area that you
I
you
just
don't
see
want to be
Pat.
so unique. Um, tell us about the book. I know the ebook is already available on Amazon, and the paperback's coming out here shortly.
Yes, paperback and the hardback should be out. Well, they're telling me around the 20th of December, but the ebook, they released it, I don't know, about 3.5 weeks ago. It's on Amazon, I'm sure, and I don't know where else. I let that up to them. I don't. But the ebook, she texted me a week and a half ago, and it was number one in, I believe it was teenager and young adult motivational and inspirational books, and it was number one in, it was attitude and motivation because of physical disabilities in that ebook classification.
Well, congratulations.
And I
So,
didn't know it would be, but yeah, that's, thank you. I mean, I'm glad, because that's two areas that really need to be addressed. And people with a lot of physical disabilities, whether they're young, older, our age,
yeah.
it's a lot of people have, they really look on the woe is me, and the woe is me. Oh my gosh, it's down. And I've been asked, if I may, real quick, Pat. My mom came to me. They came up and visited me. Oh, I was 300 miles from home when I had my broken neck, and I went through the Sister Kenny Institute in Minneapolis, and it 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 only works with people with TBI, which I've had four, and SCI, spinal cord injury, and stroke victims. and it's part of a big hospital. It's got like 7,000 employees. Um, but the the institute itself is pretty small. But she came up to me, and it was probably about four months after I'd broken my neck, and she said, and I don't know if maybe I just wasn't having the best day. I don't know, and I said, and I remember telling her, why me? I wonder, I've been thinking I'm not perfect. I mean, perfection is God's business. But I've never been bad. I've been mischievous. I've thrown an outhouse in the lake before. I've done some pretty crazy, things that don't damage anything because it was wooden
All
and
right.
they pulled it back out and, you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But why? I mean, and it wasn't because of why me from the broken neck. It was why me from dying in the Marine Corps, the drunk driver again, and since then I've had things that I should have died from, but and she told me, she said, Jay, first of all, it was you that jumped in the pool.
Yeah.
It was God that helped pull you back out. So you
Wow.
got to remember that. You got to
Yeah.
remember that. And she got me a book written by this Rabbi Cushman called
Yeah.
Why Bad Things Happen to
I've been
Good
to good
People.
people. Yep.
And it's a good book. And I got a couple of things out of that that gave me a different insight. And one of them was very shortly, it was about a woman in a kitchen cooking a meal, and she had a 8, 9 month old little toddler on a tabletop next to a window. And the kid was crawling around, boy or girl, I don't know, and got too close to the window, fell out the window, falls 6 stories down, hits the pavement, it's dead. Well, people would say, well, why doesn't God stick his hand out and catch that child? Why, the
Mm.
child wasn't, what did he do wrong?
Right.
Well, it wasn't that the child did anything wrong. It's that God made, or something, a powerful upper being, God, I expect, created gravity. Gravity said,
This
if it
is what
goes
I.
out, it's going to go to the ground. So the mother was really at fault for letting the baby on the tabletop or not putting a block up or a protection on the window or putting the window down. So by reading that and thinking about what my mom said, that, yeah, it was my choice. So that gets back to, we are all a product, all of us are a product of the choices that we have made, the options that we have chosen throughout our lives, what we've listened to, what we've heard, who we believe, who we don't believe,
Mm-hmm.
what we do, our effort to keep moving forward. You read about. I just saw another guy that had the Medal of Honor, was happened to be a Marine, from jumping on a grenade. Okay, well, you hear that off and on, but this guy was a lance corporal, and I was, when I was reading it and thinking about it, I look back at those younger years, and just you're trained in such a way for the betterment of your team, because you're not fighting for America and your girlfriend and apple pie. Trust me, they've got
Yeah.
nothing to do with it. You're fighting for the guy to your left, your right, in front of you, behind you, and if you can't trust them, you may as well shoot them and be done with it. At least you don't have to worry about, you got a concern to keep that problem, you know,
Yeah.
you got an area of concern, but it's just, it's an automatic. It's just like, oh, I'm going to do it,
Yeah.
and it doesn't like, oh, I'm going to be a hero. You don't have time to think about that. Oh, I'm going to get the Medal of Honor, or I'm not going to get it, or whatever. A lot more have not gotten it for doing it than that have gotten it. But it was just the way that how this one was written, and about it, and his age, and what he did. And I thought, you know what? And maybe it had something to do with a question in a podcast or something. But
Yeah.
it's just an automatic. It's
Yeah.
like if you see a fly next to your lunch, I'm gonna smack that sucker. Well, that's the same. It's the same thing.
Well, there's a great book that what you everything you just said, because there's in the book there's two Medal of Honor recipients tell their stories. Altogether, there's about 12 different people. but it's written by Special Forces, retired Special Forces guy, Lieutenant Colonel, came out of the 4th ID or the 10th Mountain Group, called Deliberate Discomfort. And every story is about that, deliberately addressing and focusing on getting over and through the obstacles that you face in your daily life. And some of them are extreme, like jumping on a grenade. Jason Van Camp wrote the book, Deliberate Discomfort.
Comfort. I wrote it down. I wanted to say when you were talking about that on the book, the book it does cover some of my medical issues. It does, but that's not the purpose of the book. The purpose of the book, because I've been told, Jay, how do you do this? I mean, how do you keep moving forward? I've heard it for 50 years. And I thought, well, if I wrote the book 30 years ago, I would have missed a whole lot of stuff that's happened. So it gives me more but it's a short book. It's like, I don't know, 155 pages, 160 pages long, not long. And that's everything. But it's more about digging with finding how do you find the strength within yourself? Do you find it through anger? Do you find it through pain? Do you let that pain drive you? What is it that how do you find it? And then what do you do with it? And by finding it, it helps you overcome obstacles and adversities and roadblocks in your life, overcome those failures. It maybe helps you through successes or to become a stronger success. But it's by digging in and researching things that you actually have within you. And I didn't want to use the word inside you because inside you is inside you. Within you is kind of an encompassing thing that's much broader, that covers the experiences that you've had throughout your life, whatever they may be.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what makes Pat Pat. That's what makes me me. That's what
Yeah.
makes all of us individuals. So that's really what it's about. That's
That's awesome, and it reminds me of the scripture verse, real short one, in Matthew 7:7. Seek and you shall find, and
oh yeah.
and and that's whatever you're looking for, you will always find more of it. So if you're looking for excuses, you're looking for reasons not to do something, you're looking for reasons not to like somebody, or you're looking for the worst in somebody, or the best, whatever you're looking for, you will always find more of it. And that requires that whole mindset and attitude of what are you looking for? And I think what you have been looking for and sharing in your story and in the book is you look for that courage, you look for that attitude to prevail, the perseverance, the willpower, the grit. And I think that's inspiring, and we need to have more of that in our lives than all the negativity that we see on the news and everything else. So,
Oh, I agree, and I want to comment. The Matthew 7:7 is a very good verse because there's three things in it.
yeah,
Knock, seek, so on and so
right.
forth. But I kind of I live a lot by the 23rd verse. Only part of well, the whole thing, but is yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, and I had this in Vietnam, except we used a different ending. But yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff they comfort me, etc. But you know what? And that's why people ask me, what am I afraid of? I'm really not afraid of anything. I know I'm going to die
Right.
permanently, forever. I know certain things are going to happen. So I, I, it's just that verse is just part of me. It's a good explanation as to I'm not worried about it. Knock, ask, seek, find. That's the whole thing. People don't ask enough questions of people that really know anymore. I've got a gentleman that comes and visits me. He friends with my father-in-law that lives across the pasture here, and and he's a Filipino, but he comes in. He's a real nice guy. He's been here. He's born and raised here, but he's still Filipino descent, and a lot of relatives in the Philippines. But he's 54 years old, and I told him one time. I said, Gib, why is it you come over? Because we talked about business, we talked about looking at things, we talked about
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur, we talked about pumps and some things that he was doing. I gave him a couple of different ideas, and they worked out great. And he says, I like to talk to older people because I learn more.
Mm-hmm.
They've experienced more. They've seen more. Not everyone,
All right.
but a lot of them. And I just find it fascinating learning because you've been there, you've tried. So many people don't try. They get that job out of high school or that job out of
Yeah.
college, and they've stayed with it, and they've never moved. Or if they lose that one job, oh my Lord, the world is over.
Yeah.
Well, I think you mentioned something earlier before, and to me, it's very factual. And there is life after being a state trooper, or being in GTE, or life after the Marine Corps, or life after whatever your job is.
Right.
And people say, well, what if I lost my job? Well, you'll find something else,
Yeah.
and find something that you really like to do, that you love to do, and you'll be in a better mood for it.
Yeah.
And it won't be like a job. I've never had a job. I have never had a job. I've
Yeah.
worked my entire life. I've never had a job because I do something I like. I
Yeah.
do something I enjoy. Something I love. Something that helps other people. And one thing that you mentioned and asked about helping other people, or helping other people make you a better person. When my wife and I started our home building company here about 9 years ago, I shut it down after 7 years. We did really well, and just in 7 years. But I got into it. I'd really dug into it. So technically 6 years of selling, but I didn't do it for building homes. I did it to help other people. People that were downsizing, older folks that wanted to
Mm-hmm.
downsize. Their children are gone. They don't have anybody at home. They're in a 3,000 square foot home. They want to get into 1,200 or 1,500 square feet, something that's manageable, taxes, insurance, heating, cooling, whatever. People that are divorcees, widows, widowers, people that are younger that wanted a really nice home but couldn't afford a great big home
Mm-hmm.
of niceness, but they could afford 1,000 feet or 1,200 feet or 1,500 feet or 1,700 feet. And that's where we concentrated. And with my disabilities, I was able to look at things like we never put knobs on a house, not,
Yeah.
not one. We always put handles. The handles can be handled by people with arthritis, people with paralysis. If
All right.
your arms are both full, you can use your elbow. Ramps. Do you have a disability? Oh, your wife, I see your wife's kind of limping along. Yeah, she's probably going to be on a walker in another year or two. She's going to need a knee replacement. Let's put a ramp in. It's not going to
Yeah.
cost you any more, but let's put a ramp in. We over insulated. So what I'm saying real quick is it was, well, about 70% of our homes came by referral.
Yeah.
And about 10 or 15% came from people building another one, or their children building one, or their parents building one, and so on. And only about 10 came from other sources,
Yeah.
10%.
Yeah.
And so that getting to it, that's helping people. You get
Yeah.
to we became a better company because our salesman was the best, our product was the best salesman. And everybody we build a home for, Pat, if we build a home for you, it was custom to you, what you wanted, but we would throw in, let's make the most of the use of space. And we never had anybody that didn't say, hey, if you ever need to show somebody a house, have them come by.
Okay.
Just give
Take.
me a call.
Yeah. Well, and that's putting the wants and needs of others before your own. I mean, yeah, you want to make a profit and you want to have a successful business, uh, but what's more important is what are the wants and needs of the person that I'm here to serve and build them a house that they want and need. So I think that it's a great lesson. It's a great story that needs to be told. Our listeners, I'm going to repeat it one more time. The strength within you, it's always too soon to quit. By Jay Setchell. So look on Amazon. And I know you're talking about the ebooks. I'm sure it's on Kindle, which you can get through Amazon.
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't know. I'd rather have a book I can read.
yeah, me too. You bend pages and write notes in the
I do. I
side.
do.
And well, that deliberate discomfort book, I read it 3 times. I read it start to finish, and then went back, reread it with a pen and a highlighter and making notes, and then read it a third time, and I took 17 pages of notes on note in a notebook of, man, this lesson. So I learned. I'm a visual learner, not a audio learner. So
I
Jay,
can I want to throw something in there. What you just said, visual and stuff, not audio.
yeah,
Something my dad said. I heard him tell somebody one time. Oh, I was about 10 or 12 years old, and I've never forgotten it. Is show me and I will see, tell me I will hear, let me do and I will learn.
yep,
And if you think about that, that's what you did. And I've got some books over here, just like you've got. I pick. It's the same book, and I read stuff. I get something a little different out of it each time. It's kind of like life.
yeah. I'm reading Dale Carnegie's book again. How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I think the original book was written like in 1939.
That,
But
a
it's
long time
still,
ago.
yeah, it's still so timely. And
Well,
so,
speaking of yeah, timely. That's something we've gotten away from in our
yep,
country. Is get back to the basics. We were too worried about AI and about all this and all the fancy stuff for the microwave society of fast, 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 hurry, hurry, hurry. Let's get back to helping each other. But get back to being concerned about things. Let's take care of
uh,
it, make sure that it's quality. Just the basics. Get back to the basics of rifleman, marksmanship for the Marine Corps, for example.
yeah,
It's the basics. Nothing fancy. So with that being said,
yeah. I think what a great episode. I want to thank you, Jay, for such a in-depth, informative, and inspiring conversation.
thank you.
Uh, how besides getting your book, I mean, can people get a hold of you directly, contact you if they want to learn more or share their story with you?
Sure. I've got a website that's it's still under construction, but it's called neverquittrying.com.
Never quit trying.
Never
Okay.
quit trying. And but my first name Jay at that's an email I've got. So Jay at neverquittrying.com. But when I gave the neverquittrying.com to the people that were writing the book, they said, "How appropriate! That's a great that's a great website to have."
Yeah,
So
it is. It is.
I don't know what all is going to be on, but they're working on it, and we're going to put some quotes on it. There's a lot of just good stuff. I just want to share things that are uplifting, that give you the understanding that you are capable.
Yeah.
You
And
just got to do it.
and that's a great leadership quality to have, is to be a person of influence and impact in the lives of other people, and you certainly fill that definition. And I'm not an ebook guy, so
I'm not either.
as soon as that paperback comes out, I'm ordering my copy. Actually, I'm going to jump on today and see if they're doing pre-orders. So, so Jay, again, thank you for being here. I want to thank our listeners. Because of you. We're now downloaded on over 6 continents. I'm sorry, on 6 continents and over
Oh,
a dozen countries. So, folks out there, please like, comment on your favorite platform, share with others who need to hear this message today, that warrior servant leader message, that never not quit trying message. If you want to learn more or have a free 30-minute consultation with me, jump on the warrior servant leader mindset.com and jump on my calendar there and schedule a time to have some quality time one-on-one. So to wrap it all up, like I do on every episode, I encourage everybody, always strive to do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons, and embrace your journey as a warrior servant leader. So thanks for being here. Love y'all, and see you next week.
Thanks, Pat.